When EarthBound USA was announced, I was just starting middle school. I also had a lot of free time. I loved EarthBound and had already been part of the fandom for several years by that point. That trailer, man, that injected something into the community. A real professional documentary about EarthBound. Maybe this could mean something to those not a part of our community. Maybe it could show them why all of this means so much to us. Then, the big reveal in that trailer came. I was lit up. This was probably the first time I'd seen a toy above 240p. This was going to be something amazing, and it was coming out in 2015, and I'd be able to see it. If I could wait that long. By late 2015, when it was initially supposed to release, surprisingly, things had actually happened in our community. Both EarthBound and EarthBound Zero, now called Beginnings, had been released worldwide. As for the movie, it was being delayed to 2016. Understandably, as a lot of news had come out regarding the series in some time, so it made sense to take a little bit of extra time to include those things. However, no matter how true it was or not, hearing something in our community had been delayed felt like a death sentence. We had our share of hearing that word, delay, and here we were again. This was also more or less the last time we heard anything regarding a release date. 2016 came and went. Then so did 2017. Then 18 and 19. 20. Then, in 2021, no update was released, other than, we're working on it. It had now been 8 years since the documentary's announcement. It was never coming out. At least that's how many felt. A lot of Once fans were turning their backs on the project, one that many of them had even funded themselves. But at this point, most weren't really angry or sad. They just didn't care anymore. We'd all grown up, and after all, it's just a movie. Still disappointing for sure, but I guess it wasn't the end of the world. But it sure felt like one to my childhood. All the hours spent on Starman.net and EarthBound Central. It was a long time gone by now. This year was special to me though, because that was the year I started this YouTube channel. I didn't know really what I wanted to do with it, but I was thinking along the lines of short joke videos. Just low effort stuff I could make quickly to keep myself connected to the EarthBound community. You see, while back in 2013 I had all the time in the world to sit online and read about the series all day and night, by now, I'd grown up and was now halfway through college. I'd wanted to reconnect with this community, because for some time I'd sort of moved on. I saw this channel as my way back into the thick of it, and boy did it bring me there. It brought me to the pinnacle of Mount Olympus. I became a big deal.
I don't know, I guess I've become something of an icon.
No. But these last couple of years have given me some of the greatest artistic fulfillment I've ever seen in my life, and to me forming friendships with many I now consider some of my best friends. In late 2022 though, I needed a break. I stopped updating everything, and was all around interacting with very few people. I'm not going to burden you with all of my problems, but long story short, I needed some time away. During this time though, I randomly decided to read up on good old EarthBound USA. Then I saw something I hadn't expected. The site had been updated, with new graphics and an update, albeit a very small one, that made it seem as though it was coming soon. Was this really happening? I talked to some people around about it, and although many of my friends were still highly skeptical, a trustworthy source informed me that internally at Fangamer there was a big push being made to make sure EarthBound USA was released in 2023. I'll believe it when I see it. By this point, the subject of the film's release had become nothing but a premise for jokes and ridicule of the project's management, and the idea of a documentary on EarthBound and the Mother series itself had also become somewhat passé. In the years spent waiting, several people and groups had stepped up to the plate and released their own documentaries. Was it even worth the effort anymore? The next July, it was unveiled. At Mother Direct 2023, EarthBound USA was the closing project shown, with a revamped look and direction, and a release date at the end of November. It was the final countdown, and this time, they meant it. Later in October, the film had its premiere in Tucson, Arizona, the home of Fangamer, and when the reviews came out, they were good. Really good. All that was left was to wait one more month. Would it be as good as it looked to me when I was just a kid? The last month flew by, and on November 27th, 2023, more than 10 years since its announcement, EarthBound USA finally released. Let's talk about it. My biggest fear for this film was much like everyone else's, that it was going to be really cheesy. Though there have been many EarthBound documentaries in the following years of waiting in EBUSA's limbo, they usually fell into one of three categories. 1. History of the video games that you could easily find anywhere online. 2. Interviews with fans where they tell you how great EarthBound is and how misunderstood it was due to its marketing campaign. Or 3. Both. While that certainly would have tided many over, because I think that's likely what many were expecting it to be since the film's inception, I wanted more than that. As someone who by this point has been part of this community for more than 15 years, I know there is more to say for this community and what these games mean to us than EarthBound is quirky and Nintendo won't release Mother 3. Frankly, if this film didn't offer me more than that, it would already have been a failure in my eyes, and the wait would not have been worth it. Movies are not a simple pastime, they're art, and can tell some of the most visceral and emotionally involving stories ever written. And with this being considered by many to be the definitive EarthBound movie, the series and its fanbase deserve far more than that. So with that bar set, how does it fare? It is more. I think the best decision this EarthBound movie makes is not really being about EarthBound. It's just the inciting incident. The movie is about Reed and Tomato. This film is about friendship surviving the terminal disease of growing up. It tells its story well, thanks to writer, director, and co-editor Jazzy Benson. This is a coming-of-age story about finding one's place in the world, and the simultaneous fear and indifference to the good times ending. The film's professionalism in its presentation has been a common point of praise, and yes, it does look and sound great, but I find a movie looking like a movie to be a pretty shallow form of praise. What I admire about its presentation is it uses it to elevate mood and character, and that it meshes it all together to feel so cohesive as a story. In a way, this feels like the most true way to use EarthBound in the movie, as the connecting fiber, as the link, the parallel to juxtapose the actual lives of those involved in the rise of Starman.net with. As I'm writing this review, I'm realizing more and more just how purposefully this was all set up. I think many will walk away from this film thinking it was made because the filmmakers like EarthBound. But it's not that simple. It's a game that made its young audience grow up while playing it, and that's why it's such an excellent subject matter for a film about actual kids growing up. Just as the Mother series has been endlessly praised for being realistic, for being about kids using baseball bats fighting monsters in their own backyard, this film is the story about those kids. The ones that did play pretend and fool around with what was lying around and use it to go on adventures, and how then they grew up. But that childlike essence still lives in them. The more I talk about it, the more one of the themes of the film, it forced children to become adults and adults to become children, becomes more and more profound to me. The film's not perfect. Yes, it has its moments of, hey, look how cool these games are, and some of the more over-the-top comedic moments didn't really work for me in that sense. At times, it does just sort of feel like a you had to be there kind of thing. While I do think the film does a good enough job of making it clear why certain reactions were the way they were, it still does come across as something of a memento for those that were involved to an extent. And while I understand and respect why they used what they did from their interview with the toy, man do I wish there was more of it in the film. I understand though that as a film, first and foremost, you need to prioritize the narrative in order to maintain the quality of the story. I'll probably pick up the Blu-ray too, and although specifics of the bonus features aren't listed, I'm hoping they include a full version of that interview. In my view, outside of emotionally engaging, films need to be at least one of two things: entertaining or interesting, and they can switch off between these two or do both throughout a film's duration. 100 minutes is a lot of time to fill after all. But I'm no deterrent of including more of a good thing. And seeing as a toy's interview falls very much in both sides of that Venn diagram, I very much would have been in favor of some more of it being used, especially any footage of them actually first meeting him. While this might be due to budgetary reasons, I actually really appreciated that the sets for the kids' rooms didn't feel overkill. A problem I see a lot in media doing period pieces on the 80s and 90s is far too much over-decorating of bedroom sets, just trying to fit in every single possible piece of pop culture they can to the point it's obnoxious. The soundtrack was also quite good, and feels very true to the Mother series sound, while not feeling like the composers were just trying to make songs that sound like EarthBound. And while I was slightly disappointed there wasn't more of other major figures from the Starman.net culture of content creation, I respect the artistic restraint expressed to keep the focus on the site's creators, which I also feel ends up making the film stronger overall. It's really good. It's not amazing, but I don't think it needed to be. I didn't need a film from this that was going to blow my mind and reshape everything I thought about the series and its fans. What I needed was something that spoke to me on a personal level, and that's what it gave me. At one point during the interview with Mr. Atoy, it's brought up how large the fan community surrounding Mother has become, and Atoy responds, "Yeah, it's not really a cult following anymore." And that sort of feels like what this film's final release really is. An epilogue. This film is the conclusion of an era. The era in which EarthBound was a largely forgotten game that only a group on the internet knew about outside of Japan. The era where many of us met our first internet friends and found a place where others understood us. Where the biggest worry we had was when the game we wanted to play so badly was going to come out or not. Our childhoods. In the time I've spent waiting for this movie, and as part of this community, I've gone through all of school, fell in love, went to college, met some of now who I consider my best friends, met some of my heroes, graduated, married the woman I love, and am now planning for the next stages of my life. It's a conclusion to an era, but not the end of the story. Just the start of a new beginning. But that doesn't mean we have to let go of what made those younger years so great. We should remember them, and we should look back fondly. The important thing to remember is despite being past them, there's still plenty to look forward to.
I took my love, took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills till the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, where the landslide will bring it down. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, well, the landslide will bring it down. Oh, the landslide will bring it down.
スターマンクラブの人なんかこう反応しなさいとか言ってみるなんつったっけスターマンクラブじゃなんつったっけスターマンドットネット